First You Think is a not-for-profit ministry of the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. Support us at ucdsm.org today.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Katherine Vance. My pronouns are she, hers. When Elizabeth reached out to me to ask if I would share a reflection about art and creativity as a spiritual discipline, I initially missed the spiritual part of the topic. In my defense, I was traveling. I was kind of, reading email quickly. I thought, I've played classical music pretty seriously for most of my life. I knit in a very intense way. And both of those artistic practices require and have taught me discipline. I have thoughts I can share. But when I sat down to write the reflection, I reread Elizabeth's original email and saw that this is about spiritual discipline. Until recently, I would have told you that I am not a spiritual person and not very interested in spirituality. As a 13-year-old in coming of age, I grew up UU, and I went through the coming of age program. And in that program, I explored some spiritual practices, right? You got to check that off on the list on the way to writing your personal credo. So I did some meditative walks. I tried out journaling, but they didn't really speak to me. And at the time, it didn't occur to me that playing violin and later cello or knitting could be spiritual practices. I started playing violin when I was 4 years old. Family lore has it that we were at a children's festival at a park, and my first violin teacher had a group of students there playing a Vivaldi A minor violin concerto, RV 356. Maybe you've heard it. Da 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 da. Yeah, that one. I loved it. So I asked my parents if I could take violin lessons because I wanted to play that concerto. They were willing, and soon I was playing an adorably tiny violin, but I was not playing Vivaldi. It took almost 10 years to get to play Vivaldi, in part because I didn't have the discipline to practice. There are certainly children out there who play Vivaldi at, ages less than 10, but I was not one of them. So I didn't have the discipline to practice. I did have the stubbornness to not want to give up. And I had parents, in particular my mom, who was willing to keep me in violin lessons, even though I was almost never willing to practice. We talked about Vivaldi a lot. We listened to a recording of the concerto often in those years, which I think in hindsight was a pretty impressive display of spiritual discipline on my mom's part. She's right there, by the way. But what finally and gradually spurred me to develop the discipline of practicing violin was a series of summer Suzuki Institutes that I attended starting when I was 8 or 9 years old. And at those intensive week-long camps, there were daily lessons with teachers who taught me how to work on my violin playing and had high expectations for improvement. And there were lots of other kids who inspired me with what was possible. I learned that I love making music with other people. And at one of these institutes, one of the teachers stood up at the closing recital and told us a story about a student who committed to practicing every single day. She explained the seriousness of this commitment, which required taking the violin on vacation. And then she asked students who were ready to make that same commitment themselves to practice every day for the next year to stand up. I stood up. And I think my mom was pretty surprised. I don't know if you remember this. She says no, she doesn't remember. But I think she was surprised because up until that point, she would often say that even though I never practiced, at least I did play the violin 3 times a week. I had my lesson. I played violin in the school band, and I did Saturday morning youth orchestra. So at least it was 3 times a week, better than nothing, right? But I fulfilled that commitment to practice every day for a year. I took it very seriously. And fulfilling that commitment taught me the discipline of doing something every day, no matter what. And a few years later, I finally played the Vivaldi A minor violin concerto, which still is near and dear to my heart. And then as a teenager, I continued to play violin. I started playing cello when I was 15, and I learned to practice well, using the discipline of listening carefully, chunking the music into small bits, getting into a groove of repetition until my fingers could play those small bits perfectly, and then putting them together into actual music. So certainly, my violin playing has helped me develop many virtues in my life. Last year, I read and discussed The Seeker's Guide by Elizabeth Lesser as a member of the book group that Reverend Steve led. So I think the subtitle of the book is Making Your Life a Spiritual Adventure. Spirituality is a hard thing to define, but my takeaway from our discussions as a group is that it's really anything that connects you to other people, to nature, to the universe outside yourself, or to have experiences of awe, mystery, and wonder. I think spiritual practices also have an aspect of developing virtues and helping you be the person that you want to be. And through this lens, playing and practicing violin and cello is clearly a spiritual practice for me. It connects me to the beauty of the music, the composers, past and present, whose music I play, and the people that I play with. Not to mention the patience and the meditative attention to detail of practicing well, which I don't do as often as I should or as I would like to these days, but I still do it sometimes. After music, knitting and fiber arts are my second artistic medium, the ones I've turned to most as an adult. If you've ever been in a church meeting with me, you know that I always have my knitting with me. It keeps my hands busy and my mind focused, and I get to make some pretty cool things. It also saw me through my PhD. I knit in every single seminar. Lately, I've also seen it as a tool for my spiritual development. I'm a member of the social network for knitters, Ravelry. I don't know if anybody's heard of it. Yeah. 4 years ago, I discovered Sock Madness. Sock Madness is a bracketed speed knitting competition that runs in a forum on Ravelry. Each qualifying knitter is sorted into a team based on their knitting speed. And over 7 rounds, we compete to knit pairs of complex socks perfectly and quickly, with fewer knitters advancing each round until just one knitter remains. Perhaps surprisingly, this competition is an amazing tool for spiritual development. The Sock Madness Forum is a really great place. It's full of supportive knitters from all over the world, cheering each other on and sharing snippets of their daily lives. So I get to connect to other people. The patterns are varied and challenging, which connect us as knitters to the vast world of knitting techniques and heritages. This year, one of the socks used a traditional Baltic construction where we knit it from the heel out around the foot instead of from the toe up or the top down like most socks are knitted. So that was pretty exciting. Ren gets me. Yes. And of course, the speed requirement forces us to set aside time to get into the meditative zone of knitting the sock, one stitch after another. The difficulty of the patterns, which can be considerable, leads many knitters to ask for help in the competition forum. Other knitters invariably leap in to help and answer questions. And the competition moderators repeat 2 pieces of very spiritually useful advice. The first one is trust the pattern, trust the process. And the second one is remember, you are fearless. I am now a fearless knitter. Sometimes I'm fearless in other aspects of my life too. So I don't generally think of myself as an artist. I'm a busy parent and a math professor. I don't spend my days painting, drawing, or writing poetry. But as I reflect on my musical and my crafting pursuits, I do think they're artistic. And I can see that they have really been a vehicle for my spiritual development and spiritual practice, and that they've helped me flourish as a human being. Thank you.